I said, why when I say certain stuff, it's not landing like it should land? She said, Laterras, you know how many guys say stuff? She said, I've heard it all from guys. Guys say a whole lot of stuff, but nobody has produced a ring yet. And I said, if you don't have a ring on your finger by September the 1st, then block me. Because that means I was another guy that played with you and wasted your time. This woman set up a Google Calendar request, said block Laterras by September the 1st, and invited me to the calendar request.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for the first time on this podcast, Mr. and Mrs. Laterras Whitfield.
Yes.
I'm going to just rip off the Band-Aid and ask the question that everybody's asking. Girl, how was the sex?
The moderator of this conversation. This is my personal therapist and our pre-engagement therapist, as well as going to be our marriage counselor, Love McPherson.
Oh, it is such an honor, you all. People will think, oh, she's new to this. No, you have been behind the scenes in this industry for how many years?
Probably 12 years. Working with a lot of big brands and a lot of big artists. And so I always said, I love that for them. I love that they get that attention. I'm really good at supporting them and making sure that they look great when they sit here. And so it's funny how God works. I spent the first part of my life working very hard, and that made me really happy. I accomplished things that I never thought were possible. But if I'm honest, the thing that I wanted the most was family. God had told me a few months prior, he said, the reason I'm making you wait for your husband is because your husband has a big calling over his life.
Imagine her telling me that. And I said, But the guys that she was dating didn't seem to be
match that description.
Yeah. But I ain't gonna hate. And I said, all right, I'm gonna help you find your partner. We did a live that people have been finding. They was like, this is when they first had their first connection. It was funny on the live. And she said, I hope you're successful in doing this so that me and my husband can then come join you on the yellow couch.
Oh, and look at you all today on the yellow couch.
Yeah. That aged well.
And before you saw him, he saw you. So, Laterras, want to talk about that?
What started as a search for understanding became a journey of transformation. Every letter that I wrote led me to this day, the day I got married. November the 22nd, 2025. Dear my forever.
Forever is a long time. That's how long I'll love you. Those lyrics echo through every fiber of my soul at the very thought of you.
This journey has culminated with you as both the award and the reward of my pursuit of love. You are the award, the honor God placed before me, the recognition of growth, healing, and becoming the man I needed to be.
And you are the reward, the blessing given after endurance, the gift promised to those who refuse to faint.
This isn't just our story. This is for all of us. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield.
And I'm Ashley R. Whitfield.
Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, come on, can we get a commitment? This is season 11. What are you doing? Make a commitment and subscribe. I'm so excited to be kicking off season 11 with the woman who all these letters were written to, written about, written for, my lovely wife. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey Podcast, my new co-host, Ashley R. Whitfield. How you doing, Queen?
I'm amazing. I'm so happy to be here with you, baby.
Are you nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit. See, Ashley, she's not the type that wants the public spotlight. And so y'all give her grace. This is going to be an amazing episode. And, you know, we're on the yellow couch. First of all, let's take a moment and, well, we'll cut to that later. We'll talk about this new set. I know you see this new set that we're sitting on, but I want to first introduce the moderator of this conversation, the person that will be the only person sitting in that new white chair that we have. This is my personal therapist and our pre-engagement therapist, as well as going to be our marriage counselor, Love McPherson.
Oh, it is such an honor, you all. And I am not going to get any makeup on this couch,
Okay, please.
okay?
All right. I was supposed to put some Scotch Guard on it, but I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, you should have done that, okay? But I'm going to be really, really careful because I am the only one who will get to sit at this seat. But you know what? This is not my first honor. My first honor was when you all chose me and Laterras chose me. That was also an honor as well. And so I just want to create a safe space. And then just kind of let you all know a few of the rules that I have to abide by. First of all, I know more about you all than anybody, and even some of the rumors and myths and things like that. I'm like, no, that's not true. But I cannot, I am bound by confidentiality. So I'll ask questions. You take me where you want to go. Okay. That's how we're going to do this thing. But I just know it's nothing to hide. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Sound good?
Good. There was no better person than you. Rihanna, can we just get a shot of this wide shot so they can just see how beautiful this set is? This set was designed and built by my homie, Keith Jackson of Deep Drama Design. He and his team designed this set. And he came in for the last 4 days and changed the podcast studio that I had for Dear Future Wifey Podcast to this amazing set. I also redesigned the logo. I wanted to bring something fresh because God granted me with somebody beautiful and fresh. So I want to just rebrand the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. So everything that I've done is with intentionality so that you guys can continue to consume this content. And so shout out to my boy, Keith Jackson. He used to design all my sets for my national touring plays based out of Detroit. So, I don't gatekeep. So if you are looking to expand your podcast to a different level from a different aesthetic, then reach out to him. I'll have a link in the description to Deep Drama Design. So shout out to him. So Love, the ball's in your court.
I love this set, first of all. It's so fitting that as you created a new home for Ashley, you create a new home for your podcast. Amen. I love that. Amen. Okay. So let's just first of all just say it looked like over 5 years for you being on the pursuit of a wife.
Absolutely.
Which is excellent. Now, the way that you pursued Laterras, and I'm coming to you, Ashley, but the way that you pursued is rom-com type of it is the glass slipper type of pursuit. Everybody wants to be pursued that way. I'm going to take you on a journey through this podcast. I want to take you from single life to connecting. No, first, before we connect, seeing, then connecting, because those are not the same.
Absolutely.
And then after that, married. Okay. So we're going to take 4 steps. But before we even go there, I'm going to jump all the way ahead. I'm going to just rip off the Band-Aid and ask the question that everybody's asking. Girl, how was the sex?
Student of Love releases January the 13th. But I want to share with you a voice memo I received via text from my friend Rachel Silver. Now, I always hire Rachel when I'm working on major projects to help me ideate and organize my thoughts and ideas. And I did that with Student of Love. And she challenged me a lot with some of my thoughts and ideas. But listen to this.
Hey Laterras, I'm super excited because in a few weeks I am going to be a married woman, and as I reflect not only just on the relationship that he and I have, but just over the last few years, how God has really placed people like you in my life to just help to bring forth new insight and new purpose and help to bring forth growth. I've always known that we would create something that would impact the world, but I didn't always know that we would create something that would impact my world. And so as we were working on our last project, as you were sharing your stories and sharing, just about being a student of love and just about navigating this thing called love, it really allowed me to gain new insight. It allowed me to process, not just internally, because I was processing verbally too, and talking to you about things as well. And even when it wasn't about me, you just really allowed that space, and I appreciate that. And even when I didn't agree with everything that you were saying, because I agree with a lot of it, but not all of it, I was still like, well, you know what? Let me try this out. Let me see what what this is like in real life. And so I got to try that out while I was dating. Him, and I'm like, hey, I guess, maybe what Laterras is saying is working a little bit, because apparently I'm getting married in a couple weeks. So it's just really been cool, and it's been cool applying the things that God has given you in my life, and I'm just really grateful.
What are you waiting on? Pre-order this book now.
No. We gonna come back to that, okay? Because they gonna stay to the end just because they want to know your answer. All right, we gonna come back to the end, but let's just go in the order that I just told you, okay? All right, the first one is, Laterras, I just want to talk to you about the single life, okay? Because it couldn't have been, people see the pursuit. Mm-hmm. But what I know is that a lot of times people have unreasonable expectations of the emotions men particularly go through. And when you look at how you have to put yourself in a position of rejection, it's very vulnerable to be out there and people know what you're searching for.
Absolutely.
And then to have to go through that sometimes even publicly, where you are, what was single life in the spotlight for you?
It was very interesting. I'm glad you opened up with that, because everybody, I'm being vulnerable, writing letters to my future wifey. I remember when I first started writing letters, it was on Facebook before I ever did the podcast. It was 3 years before even launching the podcast. And a good friend of mine, she'll probably hate that I'm saying this, but she was like, Laterras, that's lame. You're over here writing letters to your future wifey. Like, that's just lame. And I remember listening to that and saying, are people looking at me lame because I have a deep desire to get married and I'm writing letters to this woman? And God said, what did I tell you to do? I said, okay. So then when the Dear Future Wifey podcast came around and I said, I want to write letters to my future wifey at the end of each episode, that thought that she had said to me, saying that may be perceived as lame, it hit me, and I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and be vulnerable. And so with men, we're so programmed to be protective over our hearts. But that's a first layer of vulnerability when you have the vision, the purpose, the desire that's in your heart, to thine own self be true. So at the end of the day, I will always get rooted and grounded to the things that are in my heart. I'm gonna show up authentically. This is just who I am. Whether some people look at it as lame, some people may look at it as performative, some people look at it as whatever. I'm a very creative soul. And so to be on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, inviting people into my personal journey, it was very vulnerable. It was hard. I ran into stalkers along the way, people moving to Dallas, vying for my affection, people sending letters to my pastor saying, this is my husband, I need you to talk to him, people sending letters and gifts all in the mail. I mean, it began to be really, really distracting. And so it took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of prayer. You said something at the very beginning where being able to see. And so I had to get the eyes of Christ and say, I want to be able to see and discern who my wife is, because there's a lot of quote unquote opportunities. I don't look at it as options because I'm very specific in what I desire, but there were a lot of opportunities to get distracted. When you say that, if you have always kind of been this guy who was I don't want to use the word fixated, but you kind of you loved love. Yeah, I did.
You loved romance since a boy.
I did.
Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah. You talked about that even in our counseling sessions. But I always wanted to treat my mom right. So I watched how my dad wasn't the best husband. And so I used to find myself supplementing the love that he didn't give her. And so I used to tell my mom at a young age, I'm going to take care of you. Not even thinking that that's what her husband is supposed to do. I shouldn't be making vows like that to my mom to say, I'm going to take care of you, when I didn't grow up with a single, parent like that. And so I remember always wanting to take care of my mom, buy her clothes, make sure that she's looking beautiful. Even to this very day, I take care of my mom. I told my mom about, what is it now? Since 2017, I said, you'll never have to worry about paying another bill. And so I said, I'll take care of you. And it got hard. It was times where I couldn't even pay my own bills, but I made sure that I took care of my mom. And so, I've always been a hopeful romantic, whether it was caring for my mom or when God blessed me with my daughter Laterras at the age of 18, was making sure that I covered her heart and cared for her properly.
Your caring even was beyond just caring. It was giving your mom enjoyable experiences. And I think that was a lot of people take care of their mom pay her bills and stuff like that. You wanted your mom to experience like happiness.
Yep.
And I think that's what a lot of people misread your performance sometimes. And I did too. I was one of those skeptics before I knew you and everything. I was also one of them thinking, this can't be real, because then he still got Dear Future Wifey up on the board, and he should have, he'll have to end this podcast. Who's going to end their career to get married? This is just, so I was one of the skeptics, so I understand that. Mm-hmm. But as I began to learn you, and this was stuff that you didn't tell me, I told you.
You told me. I remember our first counseling session. I'm trying not to even, because even I already know you finna take me, and I'm gonna try my best not to cry in this episode.
But I want you to be real in this.
Yeah, but during our first counseling session that I had solo with you, I just never heard no one like see me like that. And you said you've always tried to protect your mom. You've always been a protective. You've always tried to take care of her. And she said, I just see that little boy always trying to take care. And I sat there in that moment and I was going, really? And my mind started flash back into the young boy Laterras, where I was like, well, I'm gonna say the young Terry, because that's what my family called me, is Terry. And I remember looking at my mom. I said, I don't see my dad don't ever like kiss my mom. He don't hold her hand. He don't show any type of affection. I remember, and so we had a conversation about how for one of their anniversaries, my dad never really celebrated their anniversary, birthday, Valentine's Day, no holidays. And I said, I am going to create a moment where they could have an enjoyable dinner together. And I went and got them some gift cards from Ruth Chris. And it wasn't even gift cards, it was gift certificates, because it was on paper. And I had them go to Ruth Chris, and I begged my dad, please make sure you show up. Take her there. This is your anniversary. I said, take her to Ruth Chris. It'd be nice. And he was like, well, I ain't got no money to do it. I said, I'll give you the money for it. I got the gift certificate, and I also give you money to tip the people. Just please do this for her. And they went, enjoyed themselves. But that's pretty much the last date they ever been on. And that was probably about 10 years ago or something, and you talked about how I try to create these experiences. And I'm glad you were transparent with me, saying that sometimes that can look performative. It's not. It's me showing my heart. Now, if I was some basic dude that didn't, I was like, I just mediocre. I don't do anything in my life mediocre. Like the set. What would it look like if I was so intentional about making sure this set looks great, but then I don't create experiences for the woman I love, whether it's my mom, my kids, or even my wife now, Ashley, about making it in a form of excellence. Everything I do is going to be in the spirit of excellence to the best of my ability. And so that shows up in every area of my life. I
love that you gave the audience that because a lot of times people don't understand where the performance came from, where they have seen performance. Performance can have a negative connotation too. But also a lot of the things that we master come straight out of our traumas. Yes. It comes straight out of the things that we didn't like. We can sit here and talk about Laterras, the one who wanted to give his mom experiences, but we could also sit here and talk about Laterras, who watched his mom not have those experiences. What was he experiencing? What was he feeling when he loved this woman? She loved him, and he not seeing. So he literally, out of that, the child's mind, he has mastered the art of experiences and birthed this. Yes. He birthed a whole podcast out of that. And let me tell you something, that is not unique. What I find is that is so normal that God will take the lowest parts, the traumas of our experiences, and take them, and what the devil meant for evil, God meant for good. And Amen. He will turn that thing, put the glory on it, and release it for the world to experience. So I just want you to own that. And you don't have to be to be defensive over that, but to own that. And I'm just really glad you shared that deep moment.
And that's what I've done. It's like I give myself permission to be, with even with Ashley, as we get into that, it's like I'll learn whatever it is that she sees love, and I'll go, all right, I'll do that. You know what I'm saying? And so it's my whole point is not performance at all. It's me meeting the need of that person. And so I'm just a person that, heck, I wrote a book called Student of Love. I study people, and I go, all right, my mom sees this. This is the deficiency. I want my mom to be loved this way. My daughter, I elected not to go to college because I want to be present in my daughter's life when she was born my senior year in high school. I said, this is how I'm gonna show up as a father. And so I adopted 2 kids. I said, I hate for a kid to be thrusted into this world without having a mother or father in their life. I can be a father. I can't be a mother, but I can be a father. I can show up in that way. And so I just love people. Yeah. I love people, and I will always give myself permission to show up to the best of my ability, and that's showing up with excellence. You know,
a lot of times, and actually, don't think I haven't gotten. I'm not getting you. I just want to tackle him single for one more time, because a lot of times we think it's just through our negative experiences that we learn how to experience love, or we choose how to experience love, and we do. We learn from our parents how they experience love with each other and how they experience love with us. Another area that I found was out of a type of love you received. It wasn't just the type of love you didn't like seeing. It was also the type of love you received. And one of the things that I loved you talking about, I don't know if you want to share it, about how your mother expressed her love through praying for you.
I knew you were going to say that. My mom would pray, anoint my pillow when I was doing crazy stuff, getting kicked out of school for taking the gun to school my sophomore year in high school. She would always pray when she found me doing something that wasn't of God, and she'll be like, I'm praying for you. And so I said, you know what? And God would snitch on me a lot to my mama.
Mine too.
And so my mom be like, I know, my mom used to come to me and say, what happens in the dark comes to light. And I'd be like, Lord, what is it? She said, oh, yeah, I know what you're doing. I'm like, what am I doing? And she'll tell me. I'd be like, how do you know that? She said, you think God is going to allow me to be ignorant to my kids? Like God is going to always tell me. And I said, I want a woman in my life, whoever my wife is, to be a praying woman, a woman that if I'm not operating in my best self, that would lay hands on me and pray for me, that wouldn't break me down with her words, but will anoint my pillows and say, you know what, God doesn't leave me ignorant to what my husband is going through. I'm going to pray for you. And so that was one of my core values. I wanted a praying woman. I wanted a woman of God, because I grew up poor. Mom didn't have much to offer, but she did offer a very, very solid prayer life.
What a beautiful experience for a child to grow up with that. That's a blessing. Okay, Ashley, your turn. Basically, the same thing. Now, your life was a little bit different because you were in circles that a lot of, it was not the same circles that Laterras was in. Okay, Laterras was talking about his poverty. Yours was a different experience, right?
It was. I grew up very middle class. I grew up in Altadena, which is a very middle class neighborhood with a lot of Black families. And I went to private school. I did have a single mom, but she was Superwoman, and she somehow made it feel like we belonged in spaces and circles that, were only literally because of God. So I never lacked. I was an only grandchild. My Christmases were really special. Our holidays were spent together as family. And I had a very, very positive upbringing.
Now, were you that Jack and Jill girl?
I was not.
She said our kids got to be in Jack and Jill. She told me that.
Our kids will be. I wasn't in Jack and Jill, but I was very involved in church and dance and a lot of other kind of extracurricular activities. So I grew up involved in the community.
If you were to say, you talked about your mom being a single mom. Mm-hmm. Are there ways that shaped you and anything that shaped you in single life as you were waiting to be pursued? Okay, pursued with a quickness, Okay, was there anything that you felt that shaped you and maybe shaped some of your challenges as a single woman?
Absolutely. My mom is very independent. So I was taught to be incredibly independent. I'm a go-getter by nature, and definitely a perfectionist. And so I think that really fares well when you're doing work and in business.
Yep.
I think that it can be challenging in a relationship, especially once you get to a certain place in life where, in my late 30s. So even things like, getting a new air conditioning installed were different because I was like, wait, I know how to do this. I got my whole house remodeled alone. And so having a helpmate was an interesting experience for me because there was some relinquishing of control that had to happen.
Did you need to? Was control an issue with you?
I think so. I think that.
Why? Because control, actually, the foundation of control is fear. What did you fear?
I think when you buy a house and you start to kind of take care of yourself, and then you have employees that are relying on you, you start to feel that weight. And so for me, the control factor was always trying to put myself in a position where everyone who relied on me would be able to count on me, right? I never like to say, if I tell you, like, I'm hiring you and you're going to get paid, oh, you're going to get paid. If I take on a mortgage, oh, that mortgage is going to get paid. I just have always felt an obligation or responsibility to be a good steward over the things that God gives me. And so I think the control and fear comes from being very calculated about the things that I say yes to, whether it's a car note, whether it's a new couch, whether I'm redecorating, my home. I always felt the weight of, it's kind of like getting an A in school, right?
Did little Ashley ever fear anything? Little Ashley. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to share anything you don't want to share.
Yeah. I know I did. I think when you grow up as an only child and your mom is taking care of so much. I remember a day when she came home and there was a box on the table or on the kitchen counter, and my mom wasn't downstairs. So I went upstairs because I thought it was odd that all of the stuff that used to be at her office was in the box. And so I went upstairs and I said, "How was your day?" And she said, "Well, it wasn't great. I lost my job today." And I remember saying, "What are we going to do?" And she said, "The same thing we've been doing. We're going to survive." And she said, "If I have to clean houses, whatever I have to do," she said, "nothing is too big and nothing is too small, but your life isn't going to change." And I think in that moment, I realized resilience, but I realized that there was a woman inside of me that nothing could shake or break because I stood on the shoulders of my mom. Obviously, when you're going to private school, these are really expensive schools. You've got mortgages to pay. My mom was able to push past that. And I always saw her be able to come out more resilient and more strong. And so I would say the thing that I feared was just, what if it was too much? How could I help? What could I do to support? I felt I was having these nice experiences. I'm involved in all these extracurriculars, anything I wanted to do, any trips that I wanted to take. My mom always worked to be able to support that. And I think I feared that it was too much. And I wanted to figure out as a kid, like, how can I take this weight off of her?
That's interesting that the scenario, because we didn't talk about this in the counseling at all. This is my first time hearing this story. But the scenario that you brought was the box story. And when I asked you about independence, you talked about work. And so those are both related to each other. You said, I want people to get paid. You literally just now showed up like your mom, but you did it to your employees and not to your child because you don't have children yet. So just watching that, I will do whatever is necessary to make sure nothing changes. You just did the nothing changes that your mom did. How will that affect you, though, as a married person? Because there will be times when you will have to not necessarily choose your career, but you will have to have a work-life balance. There will be times, as a married woman of 42 years, I do leave money on the table and choose my husband. On Saturdays, I could fill my schedule up, but that's my dating time with my husband. If not Saturday, if I'm somewhere speaking, then it's going to be another day that I'm going to not take on that money and spend time with my spouse. How do you feel, Ashley, that you get to balance the fact that it's all good? I don't have to work and fear the box that I would bring home. Yeah. How do you manage that?
Well, I think it's been a transition. I really trust my husband. So some people know I've left LA full time, and now I live in Dallas the majority of the time, which was a conversation. And so I think that for me, I spent the first part of my life working very hard, and that made me really happy. I accomplished things that I never thought were possible. But if I'm honest, the thing that I wanted the most was family. When I think about the women in my family, they taught us to value family. They weren't teaching me to value working hard. And I think we live in a society where sometimes women feel bad if they're not getting to the bag or they're not achieving at a high level. So I never felt like there was a real space to open up and say, like, I want to be a wife. I want to be a mom, because that often doesn't feel good enough. But my true desire, my true goal my first goal is to be an amazing wife to this handsome man that's sitting next to me. And everything else comes after that. I'm really, really grateful for the amazing work that we've done and will continue to do. But my priority is my home. It's building my home. It's building our life together. And I believe if I honor God in that way through this covenant, everything else will follow.
I love that. That's a good transition over to seeing, the portion where we say we saw each other. Because your story is that you were first friends and you saw each other.
Yes.
Now, you are a beautiful woman. Thank you. Of course, you've got options, okay? It's not like you walk and bark or any of that stuff, okay? You're a beautiful woman. In that, you saw, and Laterras saw how beautiful you were too. And he was like, oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Amen.
But before you saw him, I'm talking about the Laterras you see now. Before you saw him, he saw you. So, Laterras, you want to talk about that?
So I was doing the podcast at Cali Worship, Warren Campbell and Erica Campbell's church, November the 26th of 2023. They had booked me to do the podcast. And after the podcast, I was in the sanctuary, greeting people. Then Ashley walked up and was like, hey, I really enjoyed the podcast. A couple of my friends have been on your podcast before. And I was like, oh, really? I grabbed her hand and started walking through the sanctuary, walked right into the lobby holding her hand. I was like, oh my God, I grabbed this woman's hand. And I caught myself, I said, she could be here with a man. I don't know what made me do that. I've never done no mess like that before. So I was like, I just grabbed this woman's hand. So then I just tried to play it off. And I was like, so how are you doing? At first I thought she was young. I thought she was like 25. So I really thought it was awkward that I grabbed her hand because she looks young. And I was like, this old young girl, she probably the age of my daughter. Like, absolutely, this is not what I want. And then, but I just felt a connection, a drawing towards her. which I kept saying. I said, why do I just feel like I've known this woman before? And so that's what it was. So then I told her, she said, hey, my friend Brayley Evans is in town. She's been on your podcast before. Maybe we can go out to eat later on tonight, all of us. And I said, yeah, that'd be cool. You know, we were just some friends about to hang out with each other and everything. I said, cool. So I had the another taping of the podcast that evening. And so that evening, it got a little late. I talked to her the next morning. I said, hey, listen, my flight leaves later on this afternoon. I would love to see you before I leave. She said, well, I got, because I told her DM me, which I was hoping she DM me, and she did. And so I was like, because I remember getting ready to do the second episode that night, and I kept checking my DM. I said, she ain't DM me yet. I said, well, worst case scenario, because she had FaceTime Brayley in the lobby. I said, worst case scenario, if she doesn't hit me up, I'll hit up Brayley and be like, hey, your friend said, hey, maybe we can, see each other later on this evening. And so Brayley, when I end up calling Brayley, I called Brayley later on that night, and she was like, now listen, she's a boss chick. She's a good woman. You a good dude. She a good woman. Maybe y'all can talk. I was like, man, I just met this woman. I don't know her like that. Like, I just, met her as a friend, and that's it or whatever. She said, I'm just saying. I said, you trying to play matchmaker? She said, I'm just saying. So I was just like, all right, whatever. So then when I called Ashley the next morning, I said, I'll be flying out. Is there any way I can see you, if only for 15 minutes? I just want to see her. Because again, I just was finding myself very curious about getting to know more about her. She said, well, I have a meeting that's around the downtown area, around, close around that time. Maybe we'll be able to see each other. I said, no, it's going to happen. Like, no, I don't want no maybe. I need to see you. And she was like, okay. So then she ended up calling me, and I was like, I'm on my way to the airport, dropping off my rental car at the rental car place. Can you meet me at the rental car place? She came. We got in the car, went across the street to like this little coffee shop thing or whatnot, had me a smoothie. And when we were in the car, she was talking to one of her friends, and she was telling her friend she's going to be out of pocket for the next couple of days because she was getting her eggs frozen. And I was like, So when she got off the call, because it was coming through the speakerphone in her car, I said, so you getting your eggs frozen? She said, yeah. I said, what's making you decide to do that? She said, well, the doctor said, I'm 35 years old. Because in the lobby, I'd ask her how old she was. She said she was 35. I said, good. I said, my desire is to be with a woman no younger than 35. So I was like, good. So then she said, my doctor's telling me that pretty much freezing your eggs is an insurance policy. And I said, okay, cool. And then when I got on the plane, I kept thinking about on the plane. I said, why I keep thinking about this woman? I said, all right. I landed, called her, talked to her. And then I said, about the egg thing. And I started having another conversation with her about it. She said, well, the doctors see about 3 to 4 follicles, 3 or 4 eggs. And they want to see double because I'm spending all this money getting these eggs frozen. They want it to be worthwhile because, quite a few eggs may die off or whatnot. And I said, okay, do you mind if I pray with you? She said, okay. I said, I'm going to pray that God gives you double, that when you go to the doctor, they see double. She was like, okay. So then I prayed with her. The next day she called me. She said, you would not believe this. I said, what happened? She said, the doctor said, what happened in the last 24 hours? We see double. What happened? What did you say to the doctor when they said that?
I said, I think I know what happened. I think I know what happened.
And she was a little reluctant about even calling me, after that. She's like, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to think. And I was like, no, I needed that praise report. So when she called me and said that, I said, did I just pray for my future kids? And I said, nah, I don't want to be a weirdo. Let me just get to know her. I only known at this point about 48 hours. So I said, I'm just going to get to know her. And then so about 5 days later, as we were getting just a chance to just know each other as friends, she made the comment about how whoever she were to marry, the husband would either be living in LA or have to move to LA. And I said, so you tell me if your husband lived in a different state, you wouldn't date him, you wouldn't move? She's like, no. Which is how I would live and die in LA. She said, I'm going to live and die in LA. So I was just like, okay. And so we just basically just friends on each other that time. And it was just cool. And then about 6 months later, she and I would continue talking to each other, whatnot. And she'll talk to me about guys she dating. I'll talk to her about women I was dating. And then one day she was dating this guy and she was asking my advice about this guy. And I asked where he lived in a different state. And then she said, yeah, if things work out, I could see myself moving. I said, oh, oh, so you changed. She was like, what you mean? I said, you remember when you told me about 6 to 7 months ago, you said you would never move. And she said, she's got silent on the phone. I said, you must really like this guy, huh? And then she got silent. She didn't rebuttal it. She just took it all in. I said, okay, cool. And that's all it was. So I knew that God was opening up her mind to something new. And we just continue to stay friends.
What did you think that this guy was enough for her to change her mind, but you initially were not?
Well, the way I looked at it was I didn't quite shoot my shot at that point. So I didn't have to experience rejection. I was just getting to know her, which I tell people all the time is just vet people from a friendship standpoint without having expectation so that you don't internalize the rejection. You just like, okay, this person wants somebody, that lives there. I don't live in LA. It just is what it is. So it's not like I said, hey, will you be with me? Because I want to be with you. And you say, I ain't gonna never move to whatever. And I go, oh, you know what I'm saying? It was just me in the vetting process. So I didn't internalize it at that point. I just felt like, because I used to be very reluctant about dating people long distance myself, because I didn't want to, my whole thing was I never wanted somebody to uproot their life because of me and then regret it later. Like, I didn't want to move here and I moved here and this. No, if you're the type of person that desired moving and that's no big deal to you, then that's cool. I felt like we were aligned. But if you were like, I would never live in, then you're just not my person.
Okay. And so what changed you?
I think time.
Okay.
For me, I know life is all about seasons. And I think when I first met him, my business, it felt like I had prayed to God to help me feel settled, because I just felt like I was always traveling. I was always moving. I was trying to get my house together. And when I met him, I had just got my house like completely remodeled. It felt good to me. My business was doing well. I was like, oh no, the blessings are here in LA. This is where I need to be. And so I kept thinking that, promotion comes from God. I kept thinking that God would have my husband also be in LA, because all of these blessings and doors were opening up in LA. So it wasn't that I told him, or that I was completely closed off to it, but just in that season, I felt like there was so much alignment in LA that I was where God wanted me to be.
So that makes perfect sense, because you are settled, and probably back then you're settled. That's your initial settlement.
Born and raised there.
Yeah. So you just feeling really good about your progress.
Yes.
And so, and then security is huge for you.
Yes.
Because of your past and because of your mom, and security is a big deal. So that needs to happen right there. Now, let's move it up, fast forward a few years, and there's a reconnection somehow.
Yeah. I had a conversation with her. Like, she and I would be talking all the time. Matter of fact, in December, I did she would be talking to me about guys that she was dating. I was like, these guys are just not the type of guys that she need to be with. But I ain't gonna hate. I'm always give her advice to try to make it work so that she can experience she trying her best to make it work, and it don't work out. And so I'm never a hater like that to be like, you don't need to be with him. But then one day I told her after she was single again, and I said, all right, I'm gonna help you find your partner. We did a live that people have been finding. They was like, this is when they first had their first connection. They went and I did a live on December the 20th of 2024. I had talked to her a couple of days prior. I said, Ashley, how would you feel if I try to help you find your person? And she was like, I'll be open to it. And I said, I want to do it on my IG. And she was like, I don't like all that attention. And then she said, all right, I'll do something different. I've never done nothing like that before, but hey, let's try it. I said, cool. So I set it up to do it one day, and she thought I had forgotten. I hit her up a few minutes before we went live and said, you ready? She's like, hold on. She said, hold up, I want you to call me. So I called her, I video called her, and she was like, okay, is my lighting set up? How do I look? I said, you look great. We're going to do it. She's like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And I said, just look at me. I said, if you're getting nervous, just look at me. This is going to be a conversation with your friend. It's going to be okay. And so we did the live. People are in the comments talking about, why don't y'all date? Y'all look great together. Y'all should date. Y'all should date. I just kept ignoring it. Like, I ain't finna feed into all that. I was dating somebody else at the time. And so I said, I'm not feeding into that. Let them chime in the chat about it. And that was that. It was funny on the live. She said, what did you say? You said, I hope you're successful in doing this so that me and my husband can then come join you on the yellow couch.
Oh, and look at you all today on the yellow couch.
Yeah. That aged well. That aged really well.
That was almost a year ago. She said, well, maybe, and then you can start, he said, did you say I can start a matchmaking service? He said,
I did say that.
and then you can start a matchmaking service. This would be great. I said, boy, this is hilarious.
Now we can.
Yeah, now we can. Yeah, she's going to be my business partner. We're going to start a matchmaking service. So that's what ended up happening. And so then fast forward to in February, I had a conversation. She had just ended it with a guy that she was dating again. And I was just like, I just got frustrated in that conversation. I said, you know what? These guys, I said, I can cover you better than any of these other guys can ever cover you. I don't know why you choosing these type of guys. They don't see you. They don't cover you properly. Y'all not even aligned spiritually. It's like, why are you wasting your time with these dudes? And I just went in for, but what'd you say, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
No, it was an hour.
It wasn't an hour.
It was an hour.
She exaggerated.
It was an hour.
So I just snapped and she said, oh, what did you think about that then?
I mean, at that moment, I was like, let me be quiet. Let me listen, because you said your picker is off and here I am. I'm being transparent with you. And so I was like, well, maybe he's on to something. Like, let me listen. And you were cooking, babe.
I was cooking.
So did he make you feel like he's saying, okay, at this point, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. And you knew that during that call, that whole hour, not 15-minute call, you learned that he was officially throwing his hat in the ring as a possibility.
Yes.
And so you had to, at that point, your whole eyesight has to shift.
Right.
Tell me about the shifting of the eyesight.
Well, I think that was also why I was quiet for that long, because I was processing. It's a strong opening when you say I could cover you better than all these dudes that you've been dating.
Because you have to make a decision. Is he coming out of the friend zone?
Yes.
And being put as a possibility?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
That's a big that's a big jump.
Absolutely.
That's a promotion, and you have to really process it. Talk to me about the processing, because it's some women who have put some people who have friend zoned
their husband.
They have friend zoned their husband,
right?
Because he didn't initially bring chemistry, and chemistry can be very much overrated. Go to the gym and you have extra chemistry because it's the same hormonal responses. So you have to be careful about that whole chemistry thing.
Yes.
But you had friend zoned him. Now you're thinking, hey, he might be able to come out the gate into the other zone. Tell me about the process. Bless somebody and help them.
Bless
well, no, for me, then that's so good what you said about the hormones that you produced at the gym and all of that happening. But what I knew was that the reason he was able to speak to me the way he was is because I already trusted him. So in those silent moments as I was listening to him, one, I knew that I could trust his heart and his motive for me, because the entire time that we were friends, he had been a stand-up, gentleman. He had never tried any, he had never, he had only encouraged me, and he had only showed up as the friend that I needed in every season.
And let me just interrupt you on one thing. Also notice how he has showed up the first time with the love that his mother used to give you.
Praying for her.
He praying for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
Told you, love, boy. She's going to connect some dots, won't she?
Man.
By the way, she used to do that all the time in our therapy sessions. She'll connect some dots about something that happened when I was 8 years old or something that happened to Ashley when she was 4. And she'd be like, and the common thread, you'd be like,
wow. That's why you're loved. That's why.
Good Lord.
So the question.
You were so you were in the process of processing whether he should come out friend zone.
Yes. But I knew by the way he had showed up as a friend that, I trusted him. And so that for me, it made me take what he was saying at face value. And I think sometimes you think, or, you might think that someone is trying to plan and plot, or there's some ulterior motives. I knew his heart for me was pure because he had been coaching me with these other guys that, I was dealing with, and it was all genuine. Yeah. And so for me, I heard his heart in that moment, and I thought, wow, I really respect and admire him. He's got a lot of information, and now he's telling me, right, this is someone that I admire, that my picker is off. So, and I'm like, well, he's making points because, look, not to share all my business, but he knows the details of some of these things. So he's not just saying surface level stuff. He's like going in about decisions that I've made and what I've done. And so for me in that moment, I wasn't at the point where I had the change of heart to not, be friends, but my heart posture was, let me hear what this is. Let me discern what this is, because what he's saying is truth, which can be a little uncomfortable. And then I said, wow, God had told me a few months prior, he said, the reason I'm making you wait for your husband is because your husband has a big calling over his life.
And she had the nerve to tell me that. What? So she was telling me that. I was like a couple of months. That was in, what month was that?
I think it was October,
November. And she was sharing that. And I said, imagine her telling me that. And I said, But the guys that she was dating didn't seem to be
match that description.
Yeah, I was like, they just like, what is that? So I just like, You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I felt like it was my duty to help introduce her to whoever this person is from my platform with people who are intentional. And so I was like, that would be great. That would be the greatest gift that I could give her, because Ashley is such an amazing woman. Like, she is really, really dope. So as a friend, I was like, she's a good woman. I just want her to be with a good man that's going to cover her heart properly, that's going to take care of her, that's going to put a ring on her finger, that's going to give her kids, that she can have the life that she desired. Because I felt like she was just thrusted into this, they call it this boss chick persona. But like she said, her real heart was wanting to be a mother, wanting to be a wife. And I was like, so she's just doing this, as a, to be productive in this single life. But what she really wants is something else. And I said, God, I just want her to have the desires of her heart.
Wow.
Well, and that's good, babe. For the other thing I was thinking, and this, well, I'm going to say it. God gave Adam vision first. And I often, as a independent woman, was always concerned about me getting the vision, or I can see where I'm going. And so I had this moment, because the Holy Spirit had told me that my husband had a big calling, and that's why I was waiting, where I said, is this that, God? And so I literally had to be still to say, is this Adam having the vision first? And me saying, okay, Eve, listen. And so there were so many emotions, but I definitely had to sit in that. And I wanted to be aware of that, because I know I can often, be in the driver's seat. And so for the first time, what he was saying caused me to be like, hold on, get in the passenger seat.
That's really huge. And I'm going to tell you why it's really huge.
It is.
Because once again, we learn how to have relationships by how our parents have relationship with each other and how they have relationship with us. You were around a lot of very strong, independent women who did not have to have anybody chime in about the air conditioning being installed. Okay. So you actually did not master those skills. So this was your first time cultivating these skills. There is a point in which you didn't get these skills from home. And you might have got the opposite, but you have to learn these skills if you're going to have healthy relationships. You got to know what's in your bag that you walked out of your house with, but you also got to know what is missing in your bag. And one of it is what you just said. You needed to know how to pause, let somebody else insert, and actually listen.
Yeah. I was proud when you talk about the air conditioning thing. I remember I told her, because she was in LA, I was in Dallas. That's when I was dating. And I said, I'm gonna help take care of that, because I got tired of guys popping up the freaking contractors be like, she's like, it's hot in here. He's like, yeah, you hot. And I'm listening to her on the phone. I said, hold on, I got to remove you out of this. These men are in your house flirting with you, making you feel extremely uncomfortable, because she's like, this makes me so uncomfortable. And I said, I'm going to do something about it. I'm booking the flight right now to fly out there. That flight was expensive. Let me tell you something. I was like, Jesus, this thing costs a lot. So I booked that flight for the next day, flew out there, but I was telling her ahead of time, she's like, I need several different quotes from different people. And she busy. That's the thing about it. Ashley this girl be working so hard. And so now you got this added thing where she has this whole AC unit go out. It's hot. It was one of the hottest days in LA during the summertime.
A whole heat wave.
It was a whole heat wave. She was in there sweating. I said, man, I went on Instacart, ordered a bunch of fans to go to her house. I said, hey, they'll be there in an hour. She was like, what? I said, my woman came sitting up there sweating. So I had fans brought to her house, and then I booked the flight to go see her. And I said, now, please, I'm finna go get these quotes from these different folks, which is very uncomfortable because you're like, I don't know these people, where are they at or whatnot. So I'm calling these air conditioning companies, getting quotes. And, she was like, I can do it. I can do that. I know LA better. I can do it. I said, let me do it. And she was like, but I can. Let me do it. Just let me do this. Were we even engaged then? We weren't engaged.
No.
We weren't even engaged then. That was probably the month before we got engaged. And I was just like, let me do it. And she was just like, all right. But I could tell how uncomfortable that made her. She was so uncomfortable. But then we went there, and together we negotiated with this contractor that was... We won that. I mean, we got the heating and the AC for the price that people were quoting just for the AC. And so we came together and we negotiated great. I said, see, we make a great team. And she was just like, oh my God, that was great. And I'm talking about saved a lot of money from that. And so it was that. So I said, let's just work with each other on our strengths. Let's just do that. And so that was a milestone that we had where Ashley could take care of it. She didn't need me to do that. You know what I'm saying? But it was a thing of saying, focus on what you focus on and let me do that. Now she'd be like, what you doing? Like now she resting that. She don't want to pick up the trash or take nothing out. She don't want to, I accidentally forgot to fill up the gas when we were traveling for our wedding, going out of town. And she came back. She said, the car wasn't full. I was like, man, I forgot, girl. We was running around, dropping you off at that thing, getting your hair done and all that. But now she's resting in that to allow me to just do that. She go to the airport. She don't even know where we going. She don't know what gate we going out of. I have all the flight stuff in my phone. She just walks around wanting to carry a bag. I said, I got it. I got all these bags carrying and all that. And I said, be soft. I want you to just walk around and then know I got you.
I love that. And I'm going to tell you why I love it so much is because a lot of times, there's this whole movement of I want the feminine woman. Laterras, when I went to this year, me and my family, we went to the African American Museum.
I want to go there in D.C.
And the history in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
I wanted them to, in case anything changes. But
yeah,
we took our family there. And one of the things that I noticed, I would go and look at the pictures, and I would look into the eyes of the Black women.
Ooh.
And what brought me sadness is that I never saw femininity. Mm-hmm. I saw a hardness that trauma presented. I saw a hardness that work presented. And I said, God just really revealed the requirement for femininity is that the estrogen levels of a woman need to be higher than the man. Yeah. And that comes from being able to feel safe, taken care of, run in the bubble bath, therapy, brunches. That literally raises your estrogen levels. And we have so much testosterone in us because we are required to be at offices and workplaces and things like that, or in the field.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then raise kids. There is no covering. Yeah. And there was no covering, and you could see there was no covering. Yeah. And so a lot of times what I have to talk to men about, there is a price to pay for the feminine woman you want. Ooh. If you don't show up to pay for that price, don't expect it. But do not just think that it's going to be, that would be like after you come from the fields, after after you done worked all day, after you still raising your kids and the master then traumatized you, you're going to still sit there and say, I'm not attracted to you because you're not feminine out here?
Yeah, that's good.
We've got to understand our DNA, and we need to make sure that we step up as a people and protect women who are not even used to being protected.
Teach.
Cover women who are not even used to seeing that or having that experience. Knowing and once we do that, we can cultivate the femininity in the woman and the Eve that she always desired in the first place.
Boy, that's good.
Okay, I'm coming off of mine and I'm going back to y'all.
That's good. That is good.
It's so important.
It is. And I said, I'm glad that you said that, because I always looked at it as the responsibility being on the man. You know, while I value to respect it, everything that Ashley has accomplished, you know, I don't like that she has to work so hard. I'm going to always come and try to support her work. I'm like, all right, you do it, but let me take a load off of you. Still do what you do, but let me take a load off of you, which we experienced last week. You know what I'm saying? Woke up in you can share that story about New York.
I know.
Yeah.
The flights to Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was working as my assistant. He was working hard as my assistant to rebook my team so that they could make it to Toronto.
I'm on the phone with flight agents and the gate agents and all that, working through stuff. I mean, it's just, but that's what I believe. She does that a lot for me, you know, while we're doing trips. Before we, you know, we'll talk about that, how we curated this whole mystery bride thing and how she would be my road manager and help out with some stuff. And, you know,
and I'm always a balance. You know, if I'm going to touch on the men, what they need to do for the woman, I'm also going to touch on the woman, what they need to do for the man. That's just how I roll.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to also add to what I just said. It's so important that women who wants this masculine guy, they not emasculate him. Yes. And the way to do that is through criticism. So a man, I believe, innate knows that he is supposed to do the honor that God placed him in. And so what ends up happening is estrogen is released in a man when we are critical, when he cannot get it right, when he seems like he's giving his best and he's always failing. And so as our mouths began to touch him with certain negative words and negative things, it is so that produces the estrogen in him. And so you're like, why am I not attracted to you? You're not attracted to what you have spoken out of him. Mm-hmm. You're not attracted to women. So that's why you're not attracted to an overly feminine, estrogen-filled man that your words have created. Mm. And so I am just saying both need to take care of each other to produce the spouses. And a lot of times when we see stuff like you all sitting on this couch, we think, oh, he spoke all these words and she just appeared out of the sky. No, there is a process and it's still ongoing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
You don't just show up on the couch and be. You still are not.
Yes.
You are still not the letters yet.
Yeah.
But you will continue going from faith to faith and glory to glory.
Amen.
And I'm telling you that as a 42-year-old woman with my husband right out there in the lobby. We at each.
You said how old? You said 42.
42 year married.
Okay.
Yes, not old.
Yeah.
42 years married.
You're younger than me. You've been married longer than me. You're younger than me. So the math ain't mathing, love. The math ain't mathing.
It's so important, though.
Married
It really
years.
is for you to.
Well, hold on, we got to stop and just say congratulations. Been married for 42 years.
42.
That is beautiful to me.
Let me tell you something.
That is beautiful.
I am blessed,
Good
but
Lord.
I tell couples all the time, that's not a flex, y'all. Because you can have souls, not soulmates, but cellmate. You could be living with your cellmate.
Wow.
And so and we will sit there and congratulate people for staying in trauma and call it godliness. And that was just your low self-esteem. That was not, and that was you silenced and muted by abuse. And so don't take me there. Thank God I still like my husband and I love him, but the hardest part is liking him. Okay?
Yeah.
The hardest part you will experience is not loving, because that's a decision.
Yeah.
You all have decided to love.
Yeah.
But to like each other, guess what? 60% of people's couples have unresolved issues that just are recurring and never resolved. Unless you clean up that pile in the corner of your room of unresolved, you won't like your spouse.
Woo.
You can not like your kids at certain points in their life.
Right.
So you can not like them. So in
Tiffany,
order to
shots
be
fired,
like,
Tiffany, shots fired,
I like
Tiffany.
my kids now. There were some points in those teenage years
Absolutely.
I did not.
I know my mom didn't like me a lot. I was causing problems.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's really, really important. And so I love the fact of how you all met. So I want to get to the connection. There was a point in when you all made a decision that he was coming out of the friend zone. So tell me about that.
So it was the last day of February. Just got finished doing the podcast at Tasha Cobb's church. There's always these moments happen when I'm doing the podcast. So I did the podcast at Tasha Cobb Church. People have been prophesying over me that I was going to meet my wife that year, this year in 2025. In 2024, in September 2024, I prophesied that I'll be married by the end of 2025. And I remember when I did that podcast, before I did the podcast that day, I had called you and we had our therapy session, and you just started unearthing some stuff in my childhood that just messed me up. And I remember just going silent on that call and just crying profusely. I just couldn't even get words together. I said, I know I should be talking right now, but I'm gone. So I was just crying. But it began to just unlock this desire that I ain't gonna say unlock, it just reinstilled the hope that I had, that when I started looking over my life and when you start talking about the passion, the love that I had for my mom, I was like, I want to get that to my wife, but I don't want to be so damaged or jaded by people that I've dated in the past where I feel like making that step towards somebody would just end up where it was wasted. It was just worthless. Like, why'd you invest this time? I didn't want to invest my time in another woman and it didn't go anywhere. I just didn't want to do it. And so had a conversation with you, and I told you that, I had a conversation with you a few weeks later. So on that, I had a dream. I had talked to Ashley the next night, and she was talking on the phone. I was talking on the phone with her. She was in, what city was that? Indiana. She was in Indiana with her male cousin. She did an event there, and then her male cousin's friend was trying to holler at her. And so I was on the phone with her. She said, this guy keeps trying to talk to me and trying to kiss on me and all this stuff. This is very weird. This guy is strange. So I just laughed at it, got off the phone, had a dream that she was with this other guy. And so I called her. I said, hey, were you with this guy last night? And she's talking about what? I said, the guy that was flirting with you. And she said, no, what are you talking about? And I said, I just had this dream, and it's the first time I've ever felt jealous of you being with the guy. And she said, no. And I said, well, I need to unpack this. I know we've been friends for, at that time, it was about 1 year and 3 months. And I said, so I want to see if there's more to this. I want to see if there's more beyond friendship. And I said, I want to take you on a date. Because anytime I went to LA, we would go to lunch or go to dinner, whatever, straight platonic. And so I said, I want to see if something more, something romantic between us. She said, okay. I said, what's your earliest availability? She said, March the 18th. I booked the flight to LA on March the 18th. And I said, I will be seeing you on March the 18th. And so from that time on, we just started talking more and more. And I called my boy, Kenny Lattimore, who's my best man. And I said, where's a good place for me to take her out in LA? He told me this restaurant, and I flew to LA, took her on a date. But literally probably about a few days before I got there, I ended up telling her, I said, you know what? I'm committed before the commitment. I'm finna suspend all other options of dating other people. I'm finna just lock in with you. If it don't work out with you, it just don't work out. But I'm going to give you my undivided attention, period. And that's what I did. So on March the 18th, I didn't look back.
So what happened on March 18th? What did you see and experience on the 18th? I'm talking to you now, Ashley.
Yeah. Well, on March 18th, he came to LA. We went on our first date. And I knew after that date that we could be more. So I'm still going through the process of my heart and wanting to see actions and words align. And so for me, March was a process of just hearing what he was saying, but getting to see him kind of walk that out. And so on March the 18th, I was optimistic, but I would say cautiously optimistic.
Okay, so he had went and placed himself in a committed relationship, and you were still saying maybe.
And what I meant by that from a commitment was that I didn't tell her that she couldn't date nobody else. I just said, listen, I'm not dating nobody else. I just didn't want no more distractions.
So that was a very vulnerable move.
Yeah.
And to place your heart into this is what I see, this is what I believe, and I'm going to act in this truth.
Give you my undivided
almost like
attention.
an act of faith.
It was. And I did that a lot in us dating. Even in the book, I wrote before I ever proposed to her, in the dedication of the book, I wrote in there to my, Mrs. Ashley R. Whitfield. I called her my wife in the book. And when I turned in the final copy, this is before I proposed. So my editor was like, my editor was like, you sure you want to do this? And I said, absolutely. She said, well, you stepping big. And she said, okay, that's a very bold move. And I was like, this is what I'm standing on it. But it just don't get more intentional than that. It's like I'm always lead with intention. I want to show her that I was very intentional about her. I say it's a difference between getting attention and intention. And so sometimes women confuse attention with intention. And so I said, I want to show you, you're used to guys giving you a bunch of attention. I'm going to give you intention.
Now, let's compare that to assumption. I don't know. What do you think? Did you assume? Did you hear from God? Was this faith? What was that?
I just wanted to give her my best. And so even though she asked me, she was like, did you hear from God to say this? I said, no, I didn't hear from God saying that. He just told me I've become so rooted in my core values of what I desired in a woman. And she was that. So I said, and I remember telling her this in March. I said, listen, I'm going to give you my all. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to be because of me. I said, I'm going to give you my all.
That is so good. And this is the reason why I double back on that is because this is what I find when people sit on the couch and are looking for, they will do exactly what you did, expecting the exact same results.
Yeah.
And it's not a formula.
It's not.
And there was a lot of vulnerability in there. There was a lot of risk in there. And I'm not saying, thank God it worked out.
Yeah.
But it was not, God told me to do this, because I have seen people buy wedding dresses and God told me that, or a man saying, this is you going to be my wife. And it didn't work out. Nobody, the feelings were not the same. So I just wanted to put the disclaimer on the package of this, what you just did.
Yeah.
You may not want to try this at home all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you may not, but the best thing is to be led on your own.
Yeah.
Not by the Laterras, but by God.
Exactly. And because the reality was that I remember you told me this. So this is in one of our counseling sessions in March. I said, look, it's this woman that I've known for about 1 year and 4 months. At that time, it was 1 year and 4 months. And I said, we've been friends. We've been cool. She's asked me advice about guys she's dated. I've given her advice. And we just really, really solid. I just really like her as a friend. And we just went on our first date a week or so ago. And, I said that I was going to be married by the end of this year. Like, now this got me a little nervous. You know what I'm saying? So what is this? You said, you challenged me. You basically called me a wimp without calling me a wimp. You said, well, you always said you want to go from friend to fiance. So now here's your chance, stand on it. And then you said, what if you were giving her advice, teaching her how to treat you by the advice you were giving her on treating these other guys? And when you said that to me, I was like, oh my God, what if wow, that's powerful. And so I said, okay. And you said, so go ahead. This is going to take courage.
I love that you brought that up, because now that gives me the freedom to bring this up. and the reason why, because I'm going to keep it confidential until you bring it up. You bring it up. Okay. You love it on the open field. This is the thing. What you may not realize about that, Ashley, we hadn't in our counseling session, we never talked about future wifey.
Nope.
We had not to that moment had anything. We were unpacking traumas and family and Laterras himself. And it was all about Laterras. It had nothing to do. And at the end, the session had gone over.
Yeah.
Really? At the end, he decides to say, by the way, that's when I knew it was fear. That's when I knew it was fear, because I said, "Oh, so he decides I'm out here, but should I tell her? Because maybe I will be forced to go beyond my comfort zone, do extra work." And that's when I was just like, "I am not gonna coddle you, sir."
Yeah.
She said, "This is going to take courage."
Yes, I did.
We trying to say I'm afraid? Are you saying I'm afraid? Are you kidding that I'm afraid in this moment right now? And I was like, I am. I said I was afraid because I had literally prophesied that I'd be married by the end of 2025. And I was like, how is that going to happen? And we just went on our first date on March the 18th. Like, and the fact of, here it is, my friend who told me that she's trying to wrestle with getting me out the friend zone in her mind and leaning into me. One of the conversations that we had a conversation where she straight up told me, I said, why when I say certain stuff, it's not landing like it should land? And I said, I'm telling you this stuff, I'm being intentional with you, and this is not landing. She said, Laterras, you know how many guys say stuff? She said, I've heard it all from guys. Guys say a whole lot of stuff. And then she said, but nobody has produced a ring yet. Nobody has been that intentional. And I said, okay, if you don't have a ring on your finger by September the 1st, then block me. Because that means I was another guy that played with you and wasted your time. This woman set up a Google Calendar request, said, block Laterras by September the 1st. A ring on my finger, and invited me to the calendar request. I said, okay, all right. But in that moment, I had already planned to propose to her in July.
Wow. You know, this is a good insert for truth versus myth, because I think like myth is Ashley was this thirsty girl who kind of sought Laterras out because she was so busy looking for her husband. What is the truth about that? No, and I'm asking you because I will say, and I'm not going to give you the answer to that, but I will say from my perspective, that's probably the furthest from the truth. It's
the opposite.
And I was kind of really shocked that it wasn't the truth, because I saw you like, if this don't work out, I don't care if your name is Laterras or whatever, deuces. And I saw you have the courage and the ability for it to be right so well until you would have walked away.
Yeah. Like I said, I want what God wants for me.
I saw that.
And I wanted to make sure that this was that. I knew Laterras. He was one of my best friends. And I also didn't want to mess that up, right? Like I was like, oh man, he's been so influential in my life as a friend. And that's working. And right, I don't know if this other thing is going to work. And so I took my time. But the most important thing that I wanted to preserve was the friendship that we had. And I was worried, like, if this don't go well, do I lose that? Like, now I don't have my friend. Like, now who am I praying with on Friday nights? Who am I doing praise and worship with at home, in the living room, on YouTube, just looking up?
While we on WhatsApp.
On WhatsApp, because you should have an iPhone.
Stop hating.
But because you have the Android, we have to do it on WhatsApp instead of FaceTime. Anyway,
just hate us.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear from God, and I knew that God had been blessing me in my single season more than I could ever have imagined. But I know that this decision is the most important decision that you can make in life, and so I was a little bit slower to come around.
Sure was.
And I'm just really grateful that Laterras had the courage. I'm really grateful that you worked with him. And like I said, he is my Adam. Where I didn't have vision, he did. And he didn't give up on me. So he said, you may not see all of the core values and alignment that I'm seeing. But for me, that's true submission. And it's been amazing to see the vision, and even for him to share areas that I didn't see where we were connecting, because I'm just like, this is my friend. But of course we're connecting in all of these ways because this is why he's my friend. And so that I would say to people who are, I understand that expression, like I've friend zoned my husband more now than ever, because those similarities that you feel, or those points that make you want to draw to that person, or that just transparency that you feel that maybe you don't feel with the person who you're dating, because you feel like you have to perform or you have to be your best self. Like, he didn't get my best self. He just got the real version of me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with, whatever it was. And he never said, wow, he always just said, well, let me help you. And that is why it was so easy to say, okay, God, I see what you did. You hid him from me.
Yes.
So that he could mend parts of my heart that were broken, and that he could allow me to say, he got to see me, like, which is real intimacy, right? He got to see a different side of me, because it wasn't showered in me trying to perform to be around him, or to, get the man that, quote unquote, the girls who moved to Dallas wanted, or whatever. I was authentically myself. And then we were both able to say, you're who I want.
I love that part. And the reason why I wanted to kind of bring that out is because it's a very vulnerable place to be a woman. And a lot of times, this is one of the things that I have seen is working with relationships, certified marriage and family counselor. One of the things that I've seen is that women have this learned helplessness when it comes to being able to believe that they can be chosen. They give all of their power to the man to choose, but they have a choice too.
Absolutely.
You have to be a part of this choice. Just because somebody chooses you and they're the wrong person does not mean out of feeling that you are going to, or scarcity
mindset.
Exactly. Scarcity mindset. You decide that I am going to receive this or accept it. And that's the part that I wanted to bring out about you. I did admire the fact that you, no matter how good Laterras was, and he was good. He's been good to you. He was very intentional, had all of the things. You knew where he was going. You know what train you got on. We going to the marriage train, and this ain't, because sometimes women get on this train and then that's like, where are we? What are we?
Yeah,
like, where
Yeah.
you going? Oh, no, I'm not going over there to the marriage. No, that's not what this train is. You better get off at the next stop because you're trying to get to the marriage. And so, but you knew what train you were on. But you still decided, I still have a choice on whether I'm going to go that far.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that age didn't make you desperate enough to jump on that train in spite of, because I saw, if this does not align, guess what? I'm sure you'll make it there, but I won't be in the seat next to you.
It was two moments too that she also wanted to clear up, is that when you're in the car, we've shared this before, whether it was New York Times or whatever, we've done been all kind of publications. What clarity would you want to bring about when you heard my voice on the Dear Future Wifey podcast about saying that, yeah, share it.
Well, when I was driving on the freeway, I was listening to your podcast, and I knew that he carried the sound of my husband. I think someone said that I heard his voice and I knew he was my husband. I didn't know that. I knew that God, the way he sounded, what he was communicating, like I heard his voice and I knew that was what my husband would sound like. Now, I was in LA and I knew he was in, somewhere else. I don't think I knew exactly where you were, but I was like, our paths don't cross. I'm never going to meet him. So I wasn't trying to like find him on Instagram or tell him that, God told me he was the one. That very much wasn't what
Because that would have turned me off. I would have ran for the hills, because I got so many women saying that, so that would have scared me.
Yeah.
But and she took a long time to tell me that. Like I had been like extremely intentional with her, and I was like, good Lord, what is going on? And she was like, let me tell you this story. And she told me, I was like, well, why are you making me work so hard if you said that? Like, what is that? And then she had another moment where her friend Daphne, shout out to Daphne, her matron of honor, that's what it's called. Yeah. Her matron of honor shared that, well, yeah, that's your story. You shared March the 7th.
On March 7th, she called me. She said, I can't shake this. The Holy Spirit, keeps working on me, and Laterras is your husband. I said, And to her, I said, I know. And he felt like I should have shared with him in that moment that I said I knew, but I knew what God was doing, and I wanted to let it play out. I wanted to walk it out because I know that the Bible says to be sober and be vigilant, for your adversary goeth about seeking who he can devour. And I knew for me, my heart was one of the areas where if I moved too quickly, if I exposed, like he would know because I told him, right? So I just knew everything had to happen in its time. And it wasn't that I didn't want him to know that I had received that information. But again, I just wanted to let his actions and his words align.
And so I told her for the first 2 months of us dating, I used to joke and be like, why don't you just have the faith of Daphne? Because Daphne said something so key. She said, God said that's your husband because he has a good heart. And the woman I dated prior to her said, if it don't work out with me, just know whoever you decide to get with, make sure that they protect your heart because you have a good heart. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. So when she said that, like literally probably 2 months later, I was like, well, why did you just tell me that? Like that was so much confirmation. You got me out here. Like, why aren't my words landing? Why is this not working? What's going on? And I used to joke with her, be like, just have the faith of Daphne. Just have the faith of Daphne. Because she never said that. What she said back to her was, I know. She just said, Daphne told me this. And so for all this, for weeks and weeks and weeks, I kept saying, well, I don't know why you can't see what Daphne sees. Have the faith of Daphne. So shout out to Daphne.
Shout out to Daphne.
Oh, what I told her one day, Albanier and Amber were on the podcast. So this is the month of February. February, just everything just started coming to a head. In the month of February, Albanier and Amber, Albanier had moved to Dallas, forsaken all others. So he left the church they was with, who pastor wasn't in line with them getting married and all that stuff. So he came and did the podcast, had a new start in Dallas. Literally like 4 days after he moved to Dallas, he came on the podcast, and they were sharing their story with me. Prior to the podcast, we went out to eat, and he shared it with me at Papa Do's, and then on the podcast, he shared it. So I called up Ashley. I said, man, I need you to watch this episode with Albanier and Amber. I said, tell me what you think about it, because he had met her at one of their live events. His live event, he said he normally don't be out there in the lobby talking to women and, spending private time with them. And I said, And her friend had told her, or her sister said, that's your husband. And she's like, girl, you crazy. But prior to that, he had told, she was watching a YouTube video and said, he sounds like my husband. And she said, but I'll probably never ever meet him. He comes on tour, comes to Dallas, they end up meeting each other. She wasn't going to stay around and talk to him. She was just like, I'm finna leave. It's going to be all these other people in his face. And her sister said, no, just stay. Just say hi to him or something. She stayed, said hi to him, and they ended up having a connection a little later and ended up getting married. And so when I was interviewing them, we were sitting at Papa Do's and they were talking first, and they were sharing their story, and Ashley, her face kept popping up in my mind. And I said, this is strange. This sounds like Ashley. So then I waited till the episode released, and I said, Ashley, watch the episode I just did, to see if she's going to say, hey, this reminds me of us. Nope, didn't work out. She watched that episode, and did you even watch the episode?
No, I did. It was so good.
See?
It was really good.
She didn't even see the connection. I just said, okay, that didn't land like I needed to land. So that was in February. So then I leaned into going off, saying, you know what, I can cover you better than these other guys. And then later on, about a week later, I ended up telling her straight up, like, hey, listen, this is what it is. I want to take you out on a date. I just want to see if we can see each other from a romantic standpoint.
Bible says take courage. It didn't say have courage. It said take it. So you got to take it. Now, okay, so we have gone from single to seeing each other, to connecting with each other. And now we are, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for the first time on this podcast, Mr. and Mrs. Laterras Whitfield.
Yes.
Okay, now, what are some of the best surprises that you have received since marriage? And I'm not talking about gifts. I'm just saying, just like, oh, look at that perk.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you a moment as we were dating that was just a God moment. I was on WhatsApp, I'm about to say on FaceTime, but I was on WhatsApp talking to her, and I was shaving my head. I had my shirt off, and I have a birthmark on my right rib. And she said, "Hey, I got that same birthmark." I said, "Are you for real?" She said, "Yeah." And then she showed me her rib. We have the exact matching birthmarks on our rib.
Our right rib.
On our right rib. When I said,
wow,
it blew me away. First of all, my birthday, March 29th, 1978. Her birthday is March the 31st, 1988. We're exactly 10 years, 2 days apart. My name is Laterras R. Whitfield, middle name being Rayvon. Her middle name is Raynell. So it's like, I was like, it just got really, really freaky in just these coincidences. It's like this, where is all this alignment coming? What she was sharing is about the fact that on our Friday nights, we would have worship. So, people would assume that me being Mr. Dear Future Wifey, I'm dating women flying all in, I'm flying all out. That's not my case. I'll be sitting there in the studio working, being by myself, sitting up here. I used to say, I'm lame as a bachelor. I used to say, my life's supposed to be better than this. I told myself this, and I shared this with Ashley. I said, now, if I'm not married by the end of 2025 and 2026, I'm gonna be in these streets. That's just what it is. I'm finna be in these streets. I'm finna date across the globe. And so, cause I was spending all my Friday nights sitting on the phone, sitting up here talking to her as my homegirl. We're playing worship music and worshiping God. And I used to say, I'm such a lame bachelor. I said, these people be on these internet streets assuming what my lifestyle is, and it's just not that. And so she got a chance to watch that. But the biggest surprise for me from when we got married during our ceremony is that God allowed a worship experience to take place in our ceremony, which was showing publicly what we did privately. Those Friday nights where I was saying, dang, I'm just this lame bachelor sitting on the phone with this platonic friend having worship moments when I could be sharing these moments with my future wifey. Then God said, I got you.
Y'all had all the practice for that moment. That was my favorite moment of the wedding as well.
Love, I was in a puddle of tears. I was on that floor crying. Wow. I didn't care who saw me. I didn't care. It was a puddle of tears. Because I was in awe of God. Mm-hmm. I said, God, you curated this. I couldn't make this happen. I couldn't manufacture it. I couldn't say, well, I'm going to go to Cali worship on this day and I'm going to meet this woman. I'm going to tell her this and that. Just couldn't. I didn't even think that we would come back around from a moment of where we felt like there was misalignment just by geographical area, that we would come back around and be like, oh, we gonna be together. Like, you can't.
I'll tell you why that was my favorite moment. My name is Love. I love worship. Like, I love praise is cool.
Yeah, but I love worship.
But I love. I just see myself dancing with the Holy Spirit, right?
Me too.
But what I loved is we were able to witness intimacy on the stage with each other, but we saw intimacy with God.
There it is.
The level of intimacy that you all showed with your Savior, and y'all were separated in different positions. It was all about the intimacy this way.
Yes.
I love that. And so that's why that was my favorite, because I'm going to tell you, it is that intimacy.
There it is.
That produces this intimacy.
There it is.
Okay. So, we got to circle back around to that question, girl, how was the sex? Okay.
Well.
And don't go into detail. Do not give me too much information. All right.
I won't go into detail, but I am so happy.
Okay, that's enough said. And I assume that Brother Man over there to the right
please.
of you.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. God did this big one.
Amen.
And you know what? And the reason why I did bring that up, for those who think this is not a Christian question, this is a hugely Christian question, because 25 to 30% of people around your age are dealing with sexual dissatisfaction and sexual issues in their relationship. And I'm not just talking about something like, erectile dysfunction or any of that, but there's libido issues. There are issues with high stress. Parenting will affect that. And it absolutely affects the relationship. And it's one of the top 4 reasons for divorce. And so we have to, as a Christian community, we have to address that issue when we're talking to couples about marriage. And that's why I'm so transparent about it.
You should be.
And so, because one of the things that I tell people is that my libido does not direct my love life. My love does.
Oh, that's good.
Because, see, we can't allow our bodies to tell us what to do. We have to tell our bodies to do. You can't lose weight by saying, well, when my body feels like not eating them cupcakes, I'll stop. Or exercise. When my body tells me that it wants to go out and walk or lift weights, I'll do that. We don't depend on our bodies for anything of success. And we can't depend on our bodies for our libidos and our love life and our intimacy life. And so that's a nugget that I want to drop with you all. But and you may not be there just yet because you all are so brand new at it. But for somebody who's watching, they need to know that.
They do.
Any thoughts about that?
No, I love exactly what you're saying, because I do understand people would joke about me when I said that I wanted a woman who would be free sexually, that somebody that wouldn't make me have to struggle to even sleep with my wife. You hear so many men be like, yeah, my wife ain't slept with me in 6 months. My wife ain't did. And it's like, why get in these committed relationships and you're going to starve your spouse out? Either way, I've heard men doing that to their wives. And I was like, why would you do that? And so I'm glad that you're bold enough to have these conversations, because that's what the Bible says. The Bible says, enjoy the wife of your youth. May her breast satisfy you always. He didn't say, may her mind. He didn't say, may her spirit. He said, may her breast.
That's absolutely. It was very factual and explicit.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that, as a married couple, one of the greatest challenges, and probably one of the number one that I see in every single couple, and I can't even think of right now, maybe 2%, and I'm being generous, that have not had to struggle with communication issues. And the reason why is because of the power of communication, the power that God placed in our mouths. And He placed it in there because He spoke the worlds with it. And we are made in the image and likeness of God. And our mouths, what we say and speak, is so powerful, not just to communicate, is a minister was always say, not just to communicate, but to create. And so the creation of things can really make or break a relationship. And I think for you all, that's probably something that you all have to work. That's the becoming.
Of course.
And so tell me some of the things that you've learned about you, not about your mate, something you've learned about you and communication that you may have had to unlearn or perfect or do better. Let's have a vulnerable moment for the people. And I don't say you have to go way deep into all, just.
Is that directed at me first?
Yeah.
Okay. Something that I've learned about communication is that it's so important for me to be aware of the different style of communication that my husband has.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes I can think that the way that I communicate is the best way to communicate. Or I have a different way of focusing on the way that words come together. I've had to learn that my husband's style is really effective. And I am working on the words that I use, because I know how important words are to him. And sometimes I say that meaning is more important than the words that what I mean is more important than the words that I use. For him, the words that I use are sometimes more important than the meaning. Yeah. And so that feels like a small nuance, but it can actually be something that's very big.
So good. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Ashley, because that is the communication styles. So what you're hearing is two different things. What you're saying is not what he's experiencing. And so you really do have to learn how to communicate, just as though you were speaking to somebody in a foreign language. You have to learn how to communicate with not just the generic communication, but with Laterras, with your husband. Laterras, piggyback on that one.
One of the things that I prayed to God while I was doing Dear Future Wifey Podcast is to make me a better listener. And so I would get a lot of joy when people would comment. And I never shared that with people publicly, but when people are like, gosh, you're such a good listener. I just did an interview with the Dallas Morning News right before this. And that lady said, I brought up something that she said at the beginning of the interview. And she said, gosh, you're just such a good listener. I noticed that with your guests. Well, in marriage, because I'm more emotionally invested in it, I think that I struggle in that, meaning that communication, we look at communication as what we say most of the time, but most of communication is listening. And so I find times where she says, you're not listening to me, you're not hearing me. And there's a difference between hearing somebody and listening. Hearing, you can just hear the sound coming from their voice, but am I really listening to her intent? So it's basically what she said, is that oftentimes I find myself struggling with the intent in which she's trying to communicate. And I used to be, I'm getting better at it, but get very defensive. I'll be like, so are you saying that I don't, or are you saying, and I'll get defensive about it instead of saying, what is the heart posture in what you are saying? How are you trying to communicate that? Is that an attack on me, or are you just saying this is a room for growth? I was in Puerto Rico when we were doing the audio book for Student of Love, and I had this aha moment. While reading my book, I wrote the book as a single man. And so I'm in the studio recording this audio book, and the director who was coming in by Zoom was critiquing me. Hey, you pronounced that word incorrectly. Hey, say it this way. Hey, say it that way. Very gentle, very calm, telling me how to correct certain things. It was like, hey, you kind of just rushed through that sentence. Can you do that again? And I remember at one point I was like, you can't hear what I'm saying? Like, I thought that in my mind, like, how many times I done read this whole book. I'm reading this whole book, so I'm getting tired. But I recognized something that moment. This total stranger, I gave grace in a way that I didn't give grace to at that time, she was my fiance. I wasn't giving her that same level of grace, where I looked at what the man was saying, knowing that his assignment in that session was to get the best recording out of me. And when I left that studio, I went back to that hotel in Puerto Rico. I said, Ashley, I apologize. She said, well, what? I said, well, I was recording the audio book. God began to convict my heart about, I don't give you that same level of grace. I'll get defensive with you when you say something that's correcting me or trying to get the best version out of me. When there's a retake, when you're telling me something, I'll get defensive. But when this guy had me do several retakes on one sentence, I kept saying, okay, I know the end result is he wants me to deliver the best delivery in this audio book. I said, I apologize to you, and I'm going to do a better job not to get defensive when you call for a retake.
That is so good. I really, really love that story. My first time hearing it. And as you were saying it, I said, and because he is invested in giving you experiences. And when he does not give you the experience you want to get, he...
Yeah.
It throw me off. I'll be like, what just happened? Yeah. What just happened? I'm doing my best.
Yeah. Exactly.
I malfunction. Yeah. I'll be like, I'm doing my best. What's going on?
Well, and that you asked what was, I think he answered about the thing about being married or the best part or what surprised.
But I want to say one more thing before I just have him actually answer that question. One of the other things is, Laterras, one of the things that I saw is when you were talking about I'm not a good listener, I think the opposite. you are a photographic listener, and you don't forget.
Nuh-uh.
And so literally you hear words, just like Ashley was saying, you hear the words, and that's why you will quote me from months ago. And I'll be like, yeah. I go back and listen, like, okay, then what did I say? Let me look at my notes. Yeah, I did say that. Okay. And so
he gonna find the receipts. He's gonna find those receipts.
I just listen to what people say.
But he's going to remember, and so you'll be saying, I didn't say that. And he was like, yes, you did. You said this. You're like, but in actuality, what your meaning was, it's something. And I'm just saying, and this is beyond you all. I'm just talking about how couples do. You may be saying something like, oh, I'm just so tired of working this job. I just need rest. I just need to just get like a month off.
I'm finna set up a whole vacation.
A month he will plan for you. Like, I'm gonna make sure we're gonna set a date. We're gonna by this date you're gonna be off your job. Let's talk about selling your business.
Yeah.
You're like, what? I'm just what you're trying to control what I'm my business. I love my business. No, you said.
That's good.
I do that for real. That is me.
And he's protecting. And see, a lot of times, people don't know the difference between covering and control.
Yeah,
there's a difference, and so you have to know the heart of your husband, and you have to know the heart of your wife.
Yeah.
And you have to listen not just to the words, because even the Bible says the letter killeth, and but the spirit gives life. And so the spirit in which somebody says it, and you'll see people preach. I will listen to people preach the letter of the law, and I said they don't understand the character of God.
That's good.
They are not incorporating the love of God.
That's good.
People say, "Oh, he hates divorce." Did you hear? Did you read a few verses up? Why he said that? He said that because the men were abusing the women. That was a voice towards the women who did not have the right to ask for a divorce. I'm not saying God loves divorce, and that's not what my point is. My point is that was a statement of compassion. And he was like, get off of my altars. And you sit there weeping and you doing the wife of your youth wrong. Yeah. As I hate it because of what it does to those women and how it hurts them so bad. And we all hate that.
And would leave them out destitute, because women couldn't own anything. They couldn't own property. So when you hear the story about Ruth, her husband died and she had nothing to her name because women couldn't own anything back then as a single person.
Absolutely. So it was a statement of compassion. And he says, and you cause them to commit adultery.
Yes.
Why do you cause them to commit adultery? Because they have nothing, and you won't give them the bill of divorce.
Yeah.
And therefore, because they don't have the bill of divorce, they have to marry somebody else just to survive, and they have not been divorced yet. Why? Because once you give them that bill of divorce, according to your prenuptial agreement, the couture, you have to give the 12 morsels of silver or whatever, the shekels of silver, whatever. And I know we're getting pretty religious
I want you to go there. I want you to get deep.
But we have to see the heart of God. Yeah. The character of God is loving us. And not here to strike us down. Yeah. And we need to be able to experience that. And when you are wounded, a lot of times you see in these marriages, we will misread the words of our mate. And the person who loved us, we will no longer feel safe with them because they said something, but it came out of his was, you're mine. Well, why are you defensive? It's because of my love for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am wanting to protect you. I want to give you every experience.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to? And I'm not saying this is what you did. Yeah. I'm just saying this. I'm just kind of using scenarios. We have to see the heart of our mate towards us. And we have to also see when Satan has used our words and our communication to actually divide us. Yeah. And we have to get back on track. So that's good. That's good.
Let's move Thank on. You. That was powerful.
What is one of the most beautiful surprise you experienced since being married? Well, I guess you kind of did say yours already, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to reverse it. What is one of the greatest challenges?
Well, wait, can I say my surprise?
Oh, yeah. You didn't say your surprise.
Say my surprise.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But my surprise is just how God has literally graced my husband for me. I feel like because he's my best friend, I don't know if that's some of it, but it's like I just moved to Dallas maybe a week and a half ago today when we're recording this. And I feel like there are all these things in this vision for the home that I thought I would have a chance to do as a wife. And I haven't done that, but he just, he gives me grace. We've been traveling together all over the world. And it's so easy to move around with him. And I don't take that for granted, because I know when you get two people together and they're on like a different page and a different time, like traveling can be the hardest thing to do with someone. But the amount of grace that he's given me, and just that I feel like I get to do life with my best friend. So it's great, because if in a moment we miscommunicate or we don't communicate well, he's the person I want to go tell that we're not communicating well. I'd be like, you know what?
She gonna tell on me. She gonna tell on me to me.
On him to him. So it's been like it's just been the grace that I get. Like I still have suitcases out. So in my mind, I would have all my suitcases together, and I would have.
She's very organized. She's a very organized person.
That's where I was going, because she had already revealed that she's kind of a perfectionist.
Yes.
And so what I was going to ask is, but do you give yourself the same grace?
No. That's the reason why I tell her, I said, why are you tripping? I mean, we come home and all the stuff is still, I said, so what? Like I said, look at what you're doing. You're doing interviews for the first time. Like we just did the Tamron Hall show last night, yesterday afternoon. We did 2 shows in Houston. We did a show. She wasn't even supposed to be on Christian Bevere's podcast, Dear Future Husband. And in the middle of her interviewing me, she said, and let's bring Ashley. I was like, I'm not trying to come up there. I said, go ahead and come up here. She literally sat on the arm of the couch to do the interview. It was a chair. You know what I'm saying? And so and that's why I keep telling her, I was like, listen, I thank you for stepping outside of everything that, like, remember, love, because we can keep it real so people can hear this.
Yes.
She said, I don't want to do any of these public interviews. I'll be willing to be the co-host of Dear Future Wifey Podcast, interviewing other people about their stuff. And I will only do one interview about talking about our personal life on Dear Future Wifey. Well, when I tell you...
Which was this interview. But before this interview, we did about 3 or 4.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, oh my God, I made a promise to her that I wouldn't do this, but my publicist has been setting up stuff. And the people, once they know I'm coming on, they're like, can we talk to the wife? I would love to meet her. She's so amazing. I heard the Ashley vows and I just want to talk to her. And I was like, God, y'all don't understand. Ashley don't be wanting to do this stuff. And so I even apologized to her. I said, Ashley, I'm sorry that I told you that we would not do any interviews except for Dear Future Wifey where they're interviewing us. But this is beyond my control. Let me tell you something. I'll share this. We did a Tamron Hall show, and they did the pre-interview with me. And then they asked me this question. They said, how does your wife know that she can trust you, that you won't cheat again? I said, don't ask me, ask her. And they said, will she be there? I said, yeah, she'll be there. And I said, matter of fact, can you cut to the audience and just ask her that question? They said, okay. I said, but hold on first. Let me ask her to see if she's okay with me doing that. But at that time we did a couple of interviews, which was, I don't even know what day this was. This weekend, Friday and Saturday. Friday, we did 2 interviews in Houston. So I said, I'll ask her. And then I asked her and she was like, okay, all right. So they're going to ask me this question. I'm going to work on my rebuttal. I said, cool. We get to the studio. Tamron had the idea of saying, well, we're just going to bring her up on stage and we'll do a segment with her there. We just want to talk to her. So I come there because she went there early to get her hair and makeup. And I show up. She said, babe, let me tell you something. I said, what? And she said, now they want me to actually be on the couch being interviewed. And I said, so I started getting nervous. I said, are you okay with that? First of all, she didn't even tell me. She told my publicist to tell me. And I said, so how do you feel about that? Because I love that. But she's like, and this is where she shows me her heart. She said, I don't want the attention on your book. I don't want to take the attention. You are on here. This is your dream. You want to be on Tamron Hall. And I don't want to take any attention from you and your book. And I said, and that's why I chose you. Because you have the heart to know, the wherewithal to say, people, it's funny because people literally be like, and Ashley, you hold the book with him. She said, I didn't write this book. They said, you didn't write the book with him? She said, no. They was like, oh, well, just hold the book anyway. Let's take a picture. So she's sitting there holding the book like she's the author or something. And so she's like, I just don't like that. Like, this is your moment. I don't want to detract from your moment. And then I was like, okay. I said, but what you don't realize is that you're the manifestation of these words I wrote in my book. And I told her, and I shared this in the book, I said, the only person that will be able to grade me on how I'm loving is you. Dear Future Wifey is great. It's amazing. I can share nuggets and truths on this podcast. It can help everybody else's life. But if my wife is not happy and pleased with me, if she's not at peace, if she doesn't feel safe with me, forget all this. It's like I did all this stuff in vain. And so I told her that. I said, listen, this book, I'm going to be your greatest pupil, is what I said in the vows. And I said, I will sit at your feet and learn how to love you properly.
So good. Let me tell you, I love what you're saying because I think we might have spent a whole session on just this issue.
Yeah.
Her being okay with being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And so, and it was not forced. It was, okay, well, you need to, this is who she is.
Yep.
You're changing on your own. So that's really good. That's
She
really good.
pushed in there by accident.
We had decided it was not going to be anything forced.
Well, and I look at it as like what God is doing, because I will say that my social media has expanded very quickly. But what I value are the messages that people are sending me, and what we represent to so many people is hope. And so I'm getting women saying, can you start a women's group? Like, we want to hear from you. And that for me is why I have the courage to sit here right now.
Yeah.
Because while he said 3 or 4 interviews, I counted 6.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause we did a lot. We did so much.
And so I went from saying we would do this one with you, love, to
New York Times. Yeah. We all in New York Times and stuff.
That's 7. So here we are doing way more than what I could have imagined. And here I am wanting to be at home, getting the house together, doing very domestic things, and not liking the fact that I don't have any
Christmas tree up.
Christmas decorations.
She said, I don't have a Christmas tree up.
My Christmas menu isn't ready.
We didn't send out Christmas cards.
We haven't sent out Christmas cards or thank you cards for our wedding, which I'm embarrassed to say publicly because I don't know what date it is now, but we're so behind.
Now we see the lack of grace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's giving us in real time. Okay.
I'm embarrassed. I sent thank you
in the same breath that she says 7 interviews, she still says no Christmas cards and no thank you cards.
I know. Is that bad?
Yeah. That's okay. That's our next session. Okay. You'll be good. And so we'll talk about that. Now, here's the thing. This is the thing. People will think, oh, she's new to this. No. You have been behind the scenes in this industry of Hollywood for
almost 10 years.
For how many years?
Over a decade, probably 12 years.
In the highest levels of this industry.
Yeah, I have working with a lot of big brands and a lot of big artists. And so I always said, I love that for them. I love that they get that attention. I'm really good at supporting them and making sure that they look great when they sit here. And so it's funny how God works. But what I will say is that though I'm not incredibly comfortable, I think it's mainly because I know that the internet can be a not safe space, right? Vicious. And people can be very vicious and take the good things that you're trying to do and make those evil, or just really try to destroy you. And that breaks my heart because I always tell my husband, I don't know how you do it. You know what I mean? Like, for all of the good that you try to put into the world, people will take it, they'll spin it, and they'll try to just assassinate who you are and the good that you do. I never wanted that. And so for me, what God is delivering me from, and what you said, the hardest thing that we're dealing with is people's opinions.
Yeah.
But what I take such courage in is that my messages, my DMs are so positive. My family and my friends are ready to respond to people in the comments. My sister-in-law, both of them.
My sister's like, come from my sister-in-law. I was like, just chill, just chill.
You know? And so I just take such courage in knowing that, like, you know, when you do work, when you put yourself out there, when you become a leader, there's going to be attacks. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm just... but I would say that is the challenge that I'm dealing with, right? Is that I feel like I try to put a lot of good out into the world. And so when people have hurtful things to say, it's like, man.
Yeah, like, I didn't even do that. I didn't even say that.
That's not how it happened. That's not who I am. If you talk to people who know me, they're going to give you a whole different story. But then I realized, like, people are just concerned with toxicity.
Yeah, which was a big misconception where they were like, even when I did the whole thing about a mystery bride, they were like, he's hiding her and this or whatever. I'm like, y'all have no idea. Ashley is enjoying it. She didn't want all that. Nope. So I had to try to find a way to gently bring her into this because, oh God, like, can you imagine while we're trying to navigate our own relationship circumstances, we're going through therapy, and then we also got to deal with the world chiming in, saying whatever in the midst of we're trying to solidify this thing. So it's like, she told me straight up, she said, listen, give me as much time as possible not to be thrust in the public spotlight. And I said,
I actually asked you that question in the session because you all brought it up. You know, otherwise I wouldn't be saying this.
Yeah.
And I asked you, was it more difficult? And you said, actually, it's easier.
That's what she said.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I have a little bit of memory. It ain't Laterras style memory, okay? But I got a little something up in here.
No, you did. You asked me.
And you said, no, actually, it's easier.
It is.
And I was happy for that.
It is easier.
Yeah.
It is easier because so many people know him, and now we're at the airport, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and people are like, hey, can I get a big picture? And I'm like, oh, this is new. This is new. The bag's under my eyes.
The flight attendant, the person at the front desk, they stepping over the thing to take pictures with us. And Ashley's like, wow, like she was like, so now she has to be more conscious about, okay, now when I get ready, I go out, I got to be very self-aware about what I look like, you know, and which is different for me as a man. I don't care. You take a picture of me. It is what it is. But for my wife, now I have to be very patient to be like, okay, she's going to have to spend a little bit more time with her hair, spend a little bit more time with maybe getting makeup, whatever that is, because she knows that and then she'll be like, can I see the picture you took? Let me look at it. Let me delete that. She deleted out somebody's phone. Here, take another one. You know,
because if you post a bad picture of me, I'm not going to repost it.
So let's segment over here. What I want to do is, you know what? Before I even segment, I want to comment this. The Bible says, "Love beareth all things." Mm. And a lot of times people think, oh, you're supposed to bear everything, you know, like whatever somebody does to you. That's not what that is talking about. It's actually referring to when it says bear, it's like a roof. Mm-hmm. That word is like a rooftop, and a roof on a house where if there's water, if there's rain, if there's hurricane, if there's sun, the roof covers external forces. And so when we talk about relationships and the external forces that would try to come into your home, there has to be intentionality to say our love will bear the heat that's coming from the social media and the winds that are trying to stop us, the temptations, all of that from the external. So when we're talking about internal, that's when you have to start working on you. Mm-hmm. You don't want the forces that you bearing to be on the inside because it's talking about the forces on the outside.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. So let's just I'm going to do a kind of a rapid rocket round. Okay. And only thing you get to do is point to yourself or your spouse. Okay. Yeah. All right. Who overthinks the most? Who takes the longest getting dressed? Who is most indecisive on what they want to eat when it's time to eat out?
This is me a lot.
Who falls asleep first after sex?
Like lightning.
Hey.
Who forgives faster? Who loves harder emotionally? Okay, all right, that's all for you right there. All right, and the last thing is that I kind of want to end on. This is something I did with my daughters as I grew up. Sometimes they would have arguments. Of course, they're kids, they have arguments. And we would always do this. I would say, you have to name 5 things. And I'm not saying you all are arguing, but I would say, name 5 things you have to start each sentence off saying, I love you because. And by the time they finish saying, I love you, and it can't just be superficial. And so even though you all are not arguing, you love each other, I'm going to give you all the opportunity, and I'm going to start actually with you, Laterras. 5. No, it's going to take too long. I'll give you 3. All right. I love you. Just 1. I love you because.
You said you went to 5 to 3 to 1?
Laterras writes a book when he starts talking about love. I've been in sessions with him, so I'm like, if I give him 3, we're going to be here for another half hour. Give me just one good, I love you because.
I love you because your heart for Christ and your love for me and the love for my kids show me that I chose wisely the woman that has now taken my last name.
That was good. I could have given you a couple more. All right, go
Why
ahead.
did you make me go after?
Your vows, you went out there and you killed it.
I know. Oh my gosh. I love you because you're God's best for me, because you understand my heart and the intricacies of me that no other person has ever understood. And because you see me in ways that I don't even see myself.
Wow, that was powerful.
See?
You all are powerful.
See?
Don't do that.
You know what I love? And I'm going to tell you, I love you all because. I love you all because one thing I found out, this is not fake. The passion that you all have shared, it's not perfect. It's real. Yeah. You all don't just see the areas that you need to grow in. You do something about it.
Yeah.
And I don't like to give my mother would always say, don't give your pearls to the swine. And that's the Bible says that. And I didn't find the spirit of a swine in you all, where you're giving the best and saying, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to work on. And you never did it. I saw you all work on some things that people would think, and I hear this, oh, well, when it's your right man, when God send you the right person, it don't have to be like this. Sweetheart, baby dear, let me tell you something. 2 people in a relationship trying to relate to each other from 2 different populations, worlds, families, whatever the case may be, you're going to have conflict. There's going to be challenges. There's got to be a need to grow. Relationships expose that. It doesn't cure that. It exposes it. When God shows you who you are, it's not to sit and look at. That's like saying, we caught it. It's you're at 1st stage cancer, but we have treatment for it. You have a really good chance of recovering from it. And you decide, I don't believe in doctors. I don't need to do anything about. I don't need to follow any prescriptions. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's real crazy.
And what I'm saying to you is what I've witnessed and what I encourage you all to continue to do is it expose the areas of your childhood, the areas of your wounding, the areas of your past relationship. As God begins to continue to expose those daily, you stop and say, you know what? If I need to give myself more grace, why? Because he's placed somebody in your life to show you what grace looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the area he's growing you. When he's showing you somebody where it says, listen to my heart and not just my words, you take heed and you learn a new language.
Yep.
And you have new ears. And you don't just listen just for God to speak, but others. You give them the same reverence and honor of listening to their heart because of the relationship. And I just love you all, because when I walk away and after I've said this, guess what? You all were going to put this into action.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much, love, for wow. Yeah, this was beautiful. That's why I know why God allowed you to enter into our lives and do what you do. You're very passionate about this work. It's not just work, but it's kingdom work. And you're one of the leaders and champions in trying to preserve marriages and try to heal people so that when they show up in marriage, that they show up as their authentic self and their healed self. And so, hey, listen, Lit Fam, make sure that y'all go follow Love McPherson's social media page. Do you have any openings for therapy sessions? Because when I say this, your calendar finna get full. So
you know what? Actually, I am about in 2026. What I want people to do is stay tuned for the Love Seat podcast that's coming.
Good.
Yes. And of course, I'm going to ask you all on the show. Okay. So this is not going to be.
You don't have me on the show, I'm offended. I'm letting y'all know, if she don't invite us, we're offended. You understand that? We're offended. But hey, make sure y'all stay tuned so that when she launches a podcast, I'm going to drop a link in our community tab so y'all can go and run her numbers up.
But follow me on social media.
Yeah, follow on social media at Love McPherson, right?
Yes.
At Love McPherson, and it'll be a link in the description. But one thing about Love, and Ashley can attest to this, is that she's so different from a therapist. Most therapists hear what you say and then go through a diagnosis. But Love hears something in a spiritual realm that she'll say something that you didn't say, and it'd be so on point. It's been times that we got in our counseling sessions, and at the very beginning, she'll just start saying stuff. We're like, hold on, we weren't gonna tell you. What are you doing?
How does she know?
We just had this conversation 5 minutes ago. God, stop telling this lady our stuff. We ain't ready to talk to Love about this. Why are you bringing this up? And so it's so many moments like that told us and taught us that we were in the right hands, and she will handle you with grace.
Oh, thank
Anything you want to say as you close out, Ashley?
We did it.
So we did it. Hey, make sure Student of Love drops January the 13th. Make sure you get this book. Love is not about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. And so here she goes. She got the book right here. Get this book. Let me tell you something. Publishers need to see that this book is in high demand for pre-orders. I've been doing a lot of press. Ashley, I've been dragging her along with me on this press tour. She's been showing up doing amazing in the interviews. But this book, I wrote this book because I wanted to help heal us prior to taking these vows, and so that we can become a student of love. And it's not just romantic love, but it's love all the way around. Love with family, love with coworkers, love with just mankind. So make sure you purchase this book, Student of Love, so that you can become a lifelong learner of love. Hey, this is a new thing that I'm adding to the podcast. At the end of the Dear Future Wifey podcast, I used to write letters to my future wifey. So now I'm asking the guests to write a key to love. And so, Love, you'll be the first person. You'll take this. You can hand her this book, and you hand that to her, and you'll write a key to love, just a statement about love, some little tip.
So you want me to write it right now?
Yeah, write it right now.
Oh, okay.
Write it right now, and then you'll take it, and then you'll hang it up right there in that center thing.
Okay.
And when you write it down, then you actually read it. You did good. How you feel? You did great.
Okay.
You wrote your name on it?
Oh.
Yeah. So I want to have a whole wall of different guests.
Do I explain this or no?
You can. You can say it right now. So read it.
What I wrote here is, you must grow up to love. The Bible says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I thought as a child. I spoke as a child. I understood as a child, or reasoned as a child. When I became an adult, I put away childish things. We must heal the inner child in order to love correctly. That's why I always take you back, because that child wants love. It was burst in love. God is love. And so the little girl and the little boy always wants to love, and they want love from each other. But the little boy and the little girl cannot run an adult relationship. You've got to put them to bed, and you've got to grow up and love correctly, love differently, love maturely, love like God.
Good, good. So Gold, if you would please take that, put it right there on the center hook. You'll be the first person to put that. There it is. You got to grow up to love.
Grow up.
You got to grow up to love. So what do you think about that, Ashley, to have a key to love? The keys to love, to have this.
And you left the center hook for me?
Yep, right there for you to put that. And so I'll take a key down after each episode, and people will write a key to love. And so that center one will be the very first one.
I love it.
Well, good.
I love quotes. I love wisdom.
Yeah.
And all that getting.
And all that I get wisdom and understanding. Hey, so this concludes the first episode of season 11, episode 1 of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast with my new co-host, Ashley Whitfield. Y'all, thank y'all so much. Make sure that y'all follow our social media, follow us on Dear Future Wifey Podcast, and everywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, tell your friends, tell your family about it. Support, support, support. God bless you. And remember, don't stop loving. Matter of fact, we're going to come up with a new little thing. That's what I said in my single season. So after this episode, I want us to ideate and come up with a new slogan for that. All right? Deal? All right. Y'all be blessed.
Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.